Hey ladies, how are you doing? Welcome to the Feminine, Empowered and Confident Wife. Got a few more ladies about to join, but just to make sure that I don't forget this time, let me hit the record button. And we're going to spend the next hour and a half together, and my desire is that you finish this webinar feeling more feminine, more empowered, and more confident, and really understanding how you moving in that space is going to help you to bring radical transformation to your marriage. So as you're coming in, make sure that you are staying on mute. Hi, make sure you jump into the chat box and say hello. We will be using the chat box. I'm super excited for you guys. If at any point you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat box, and I will happily pause and go ahead and answer the questions for you. We are streaming live on Facebook and on YouTube, so it should be fun. I'll be keeping an eye on both of those places. So again, if you guys have any questions, use those platforms as well to put them in. All right, awesome. Welcome everybody. Let's get into it, shall we? The feminine, empowered, and confident wife. Before I do that, let me tell you a little bit about me. All right. This is me and my husband in our kitchen. I don't know why his face looks like that, actually. Extremely happy. But I am the head coach in the coaching platform Marriage for Real, which I started a long time ago, many years ago, on the back of my marriage being what I called my personal hell. And we did not think that we would ever, I personally did not think that we would ever be able to even take a picture like this, to be able to have this authentically passionate, beautiful relationship. And you know, we've been together for coming up to 21 years now, and we are more in love now than ever before. And, you know, what I always teach is that intimacy is like a fine wine. It's supposed to get better with time and not go downhill, as other people say. And that's exactly what's happening with us. Now, is this because we're just lucky? No. It is because there are principles to this that obviously I use within my marriage, my husband uses, but also what I teach as well in my coaching program. Okay. I'm also the author of the book 7 Intimacy Killers and BBC Radio Manchester's relationship expert. I'm a full-time marriage and relationship coach. I work with couples and individuals around the world, as far as Australia, the Americas, the Middle East, right here in Europe, UK. Now, my desire is to see people shift from being victims of their situation to knowing that they are able to create the life that they truly desire. That is my desire, to see you know, absolutely know that you have the ability and the authority, and you know what, even the responsibility to create the life that you desire, right? And if a thriving, harmonious, loved, and passion-filled marriage is part of that desire, then I want them to know, I want you to know that that's available for you too. Absolutely available to you too. All right? All right. So who is the feminine, empowered, and confident wife? Well, first of all, she knows that she is the good thing. And if you follow me, you will hear me say that a lot. Ladies, you are the good thing. All right? She recognizes that her femininity is her power. It's not a weakness. And accepts that she is the authority of her reality. Her husband is magnetically drawn to her and finds pleasure in her atmosphere. Some of these things we'll talk about in the next hour or so. So just bear them in mind. You are the good thing. Your femininity is your power, right? And you have the authority of your reality. And your atmosphere is magnetic to your husband, believe it or not, actually magnetic. So the 3 pillars that we're going to be talking on today is obviously femininity. What is that? These are the qualities and attributes regarded as characteristics of women. Empowered, what does it mean to be empowered? That is having the authority to do something, change something, and create something. And confidence, which is feeling sure and having faith in who you are, your ability to create, right? That's what it's all about, and that's what we're moving into. Okay. So let's start with femininity. And you know what? It's so important we talk about this because I realize that it's something that we are not really taught about. And some of us naturally get it. So you will be around women who you recognize they just have this feminine feeling around them that just feels magnetic, right? You just sense it from them, okay? And maybe you feel like, actually, I'm quite confused about what this is. Well, let me tell you, first of all, that it's more than, dresses, lipsticks, and high heels, right? Which is what a lot of people think, oh, it's just about dressing girly. Actually, no, that's not really what femininity is about. But the feminine energy is the direct counterpart of masculine energy and brings equilibrium to the male and female relationship. Let me explain to you what I mean by that. Listen closely. So if you look at the world, this whole universe that God has created, you'll find one law that remains true. And well, there's a lot of laws that remain true, but this particular one is the law of equilibrium or the law of polarity or opposites, right? So for every up, there is a down. For every left, there's a right. For every black, there's a white. Positive, negative, you get it, right? For every masculine, there's a feminine. And everything in this universe is created on that balance. That's the word, equilibrium, balance. Right? Male, female, masculine, feminine. But because of what a lot of women have been through, hurts from the past, disappointments from the past, being taught that we have to be strong, right? Feeling like we have to survive. We are now operating more in our masculine traits. And we're going to go into what the feminine traits are in a little bit. But we're operating more in our masculine energy. So let me say this, both male and female have both masculine and feminine, right? But obviously the man is going to lean more towards and operate more in his masculine. And ideally the woman is going to lean more towards and operate more in her feminine. But what happens is because of what we've been through, we're showing up in our relationships with more masculine energy. And so that balance in our relationship is off. Right? And what happens is now we've got two males bumping heads in the relationship. Right? You get? If you're following me, put a 1 in the comments. If I'm losing you, put a 2. So for there to be balance in the relationship, great, glad you've got you. For there to be balance, there has to be both the masculine and the feminine energy, right? And let me tell you something. The masculine and the feminine energy draw towards each other. They attract, right? Masculine and masculine don't, but that masculine and feminine attract, right? It's magnetic, particularly the masculine. So here are some core traits of the feminine, right? We are receptive. Some of us struggle to receive, right? We want to do everything. We want to be the giver in the relationship. And we've been taught that that's what we're supposed to do. But actually, it goes against who we're created to be. We're receptive. I was listening to Miles Monroe, and he said that, you know, a woman multiplies, right? You give her a sperm, she creates a baby. You give her food, she creates a meal. You give her a home, she creates, or a house, she creates a home. We receive and multiply, okay? We're sensual, supposed to be able to slow down and feel and really be in touch with our senses and let that ooze from us to connect with our partners. We are naturally, when we're operating in our feminine, when we realize that it's okay to be in our feminine, in fact, powerful in a relationship to be in our feminine, we're nurturing. Now, let me show you this. Many of us have been taught that, hey, you know, if you want to have a happy man, you've got to make sure you keep the house clean, and you've got to make sure that you cook dinner and have a hot meal on the table. Do you know that it's not actually the acts? It's not actually those acts that keep the relationship and keep the husband happy. It's not that. It's the energy of nurture. It's what those acts represent. So if you're just doing these acts, you know, well, I've been cooking and I've been cleaning and he's still not happy. Yeah, because it's not really about that. It's about this feeling of nurture, right? Feeling of nurture. That's what it is. That's why some women can get away with, actually, I don't really cook, I don't really clean. But because around them, there is this feeling of when the husband is around, he feels nurtured, right? That's what it's about. Less about actually what you do and more about the energy that it comes from. So if within your home or around you, it doesn't feel nurturing, but you feel like you're doing nurturing acts, it won't naturally be attractive or magnetic to your husband. And then the other thing, which is really, really a struggle for many women, particularly if we've been hurt, it's vulnerability. Vulnerability. Now listen to this. It is impossible. It is impossible to be intimate or create intimacy without vulnerability. Right? Again, some of us are really desiring an intimate relationship, but we really don't want to be vulnerable. We've got all those guards up, right? We've got all those guards up. The walls are up high. Is there any of those 4 that you really feel is a struggle for you? Put in the comments if there's any 4 that you really feel is a struggle for you. Let me know. And let me show you the rest of these traits, and we'll just run through them really quickly. But these are all the traits that naturally, when we allow ourselves to operate from our feminine space, these are the traits that we have. And this is why I always say to women, listen, it's not weak. Operating from your feminine energy is not a weakened position. It's extremely powerful. It just looks different from the masculine. You've heard of women's intuition, our heightened level of discernment, right? That is a gift. That is something that comes natural to us. It is a feminine trait. We are creative. We are magnetic by nature, right? Warm, welcoming, expressive of love. authentic. I really want to pull out that word, how important it is to live your truth and be truly who you are. Affectionate, playful. How many of us got married and forgot how to be playful? How to just relax, how to let the atmosphere around us feel nice and fun, right? Empathetic, cooperative, not combative, right? Charming, knowing what to say at the right way, in the right way at the right time, right? And self-aware, we're much better at looking at ourselves and saying, hey, oh, maybe I needed to be a bit of, approach that in a different way, or maybe I need to approach with this in this way. And all of this gives us a quiet wisdom, right? Quiet wisdom. And if you started literally, and this is why, when my wife's coaching program actually does kicking off in June, the training program, a lot of the people join that program. It's 8 weeks long, and they think that they're just going to join, and I'm going to give them a list of things to do to their husband to change their husband. That isn't what happens, unfortunately. I'm sorry to say, but I'm not sorry to say. That isn't what happens. We start with us. We start with self-awareness, right? We start with getting authentic, right? We start with tapping into all these feminine traits, becoming more magnetic, becoming more playful, right? Becoming more charming, wise, getting rid of fear so that we can become more vulnerable. We start to shift us first. And guess what? When you shift, everything around you has to shift. Again, that's another law. It's a physics. Something moves, everything around has to move. Even when you think you can't see it, there's atoms that have moved when you have shifted. Right? So a lot of the times we're so focused on our husbands. And again, this is why on that training course that's starting in January, again, the first part of it, I say, leave him alone. Just leave him. Just don't focus on him right now. Shift all that focus and desperation off him and focus on you tapping into your power. Becoming the woman that you want to be, that you would find magnetic, right? So that you're not having to pull at him. He is magnetically drawn. Right? Again, pop a number 1 in the comments if you're following me, so I don't race ahead of you. And be sure that if you have any questions, great, good, I'm glad. If you have any questions, you can put them in. Great, that's good. Right. Julian Lennon said this: nothing changes until you change. Nothing changes until you change. But guess what? Everything changes once you do. Once you do. I remember, years back, being so focused on everything my husband was doing. And he did this, and he does that, and he did this, and he needs to be better at this, and he needs to do this, and he needs to do that. And I remember one time just being caught up and hearing, what about you? As in, what about me? And I realized that actually, what I want is within me. My sense of happiness, my sense of peace, my sense of power, my joy was all within me first. And when I create that within me, it flows out into my atmosphere. And that's why this section is called Shift the Atmosphere in Your Relationship, because that atmosphere around you is either repelling people away or attracting them. What is it like being in your atmosphere? When your partner comes around you, what are they receiving? Are they receiving those beautiful, magnetic, feminine traits? Or are they receiving challenge, competition, aggression, moaning, groaning, no fun, judgment, right? You didn't do this, you should have done this, right? Correction, right? Boredom. What is it like in your atmosphere? What does it feel like? I'll have some wives come to me and say, he never wants to spend time with me. Never wants to spend time with me. And after spending a little bit of time with them, I'm like, and really understanding the dynamics of the relationship, I'm like, well, it's a bit tough being around you because he's walking on eggshells. Because you're the first person that's going to correct. You're the first person that's going to moan and complain at him. If he does it this way, challenge him. Does it that way, challenge him. If he makes a mistake, you're the first one to say, I told you so. The atmosphere around you does not feel sensual, nurturing, vulnerable, playful, intimate, welcoming, receptive, giving him space to show up for you, giving him space to be the man that he wants to be for you. Listen, there's a study out there that says that every man, I would say most men, not every, has something called a hero instinct, right? The ladies that are going to join me onto the wives coaching program will work into this more deeply, but it states that most men have a hero instinct, meaning that a natural desire to show up, to be your hero. And I can witness from the work that I've done working with many men across the world, many couples, most of them do have that hero instinct, right? They want to be seen as the guy who came along and saved, right? Saved you, helps you out, does this for you, is able to do that for you. But because we've come in with this very masculine energy, I don't need you to do anything. In fact, as we got into the marriage, we set up all the bills, we put the house together, we do this. How many of you, and again, put in the comment, put a number 1 in the chat box if you do most things. Like, things don't happen unless you do it. You took over and you carry a lot. Because I would hazard a guess that most of us did that as we got into the relationship because we were taught that you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to do this. And we took over because we wanted to be seen as Superwoman. Something I always say is nobody is trying to save Superwoman. Who tries to save Superwoman's got it all. She does it all. She's strong. So nobody's trying to save her. We started our marriage like that. Right? You started your marriage thinking you have to be Superwoman, and that was what was going to impress him. That was what was going to keep your marriage. But what you did was that you set up this precedence that made him say, I don't need to do anything, and I'm not given space. I'm not given any space to do anything. And in an indirect way, that crushes his hero instinct. Yeah, great question. How do you change that? Listen, change never comes easy, but what you have to do is start practicing the opposite. You've just got to go through the transition stage where he will fight against it a little bit because told me for how many years we've been together not to, right? So be prepared to go through a transition. And then I promise you, once they're over that, okay, things have changed. Oh, I can show up there. Oh, she does need me to do this. Oh, she does like it when I step in. They really do, right? And then what you want to start doing is using things like the things that you would ordinarily just go ahead and make a decision and do. Now what you're going to do is start calling or saying, hey, babe, you know what? I was thinking about doing this, but I wanted to know what you think first. You do? Right? Why? Because you're a great guy, or you're wise, or whatever. Yeah. Oh, hey, babe, you know what? I was really struggling with this, and you're good at this. So I was wondering if you could help me. Here's the trick. Leave it there. Don't be like, you've got to do it by 2:00 tomorrow. Otherwise, I'm going to bash you and bash you and bash you, and you have to do it my way. No, you give the space. Here's the other thing. You give the space for him to fail. And if he does fail, you're not the person that comes and says, I told you so, you should have done it my way. Goes against his ego. Don't have time to teach about the ego now. Again, it's something that we learn on the wives coaching program starting in January, but it goes against the ego. And if you can bear in mind that women are emotions, so if I had a room full of men right now in this webinar, I'd be teaching them how to handle the emotions, but for women, teaching them about handling the ego is the key thing. Don't despise the ego. The ego is there for you. You just got to know how to use it. That's where these things come in. Where are we? Intuition. You know how he feels before he even feels it, right? You're warm and welcoming. So his ego isn't challenged when he comes into your world. It feels lovely, right? You're authentic and true. You're not fake. You're playful and affectionate. And here's the thing, charming, right? I know you know how to speak to him in a way that his ego isn't not, right? So you've got to go through that transition period and shift that dynamic, all right? So here's what you need to be looking at, 4 ways that you can start to shift the atmosphere in your relationship, okay? So take note. You want to start shifting from your masculine energy to your feminine. Now, let me tell you this. I'm a businesswoman. I run 2 businesses. In my business, I'm very masculine, right? I'm going to speak first. I'm going to lead. I'm going to make decisions real quick, right? I'm going to challenge, right? I'm going to be competitive. Might even be a little bit aggressive. Okay, it's in my business. But when I come home, I switch that off. Because the relationship doesn't need another man. Right? It needs all those other powerful traits. That's balance. Right? The second thing to shift in the atmosphere in your relationship is knowing who you are, knowing that you're the good thing. I wish there was a way that I could really imprint this on the hearts and minds of women, because when you know that you're the good thing, listen, your husband needs you to know that. There was a study done, and they asked a sample of men, what was the most alluring thing about their woman, right? Or about women to a man. And, you know, all those women were thinking it was going to be legs or boobs. Right? The number 1 thing at the top of that list was confidence. A woman knowing who she is. Now, don't get confidence mixed up with attitude, right? With a sharp mouth, with aggression, over assertiveness. That's not what it is. It's knowing that actually I'm the prize. I'm the prize. And it's almost a mental shift that needs to happen. When that mental shift happens, it shifts how you feel about yourself, which then shifts how you operate. So now you're not there with desperation and panic. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. It naturally shifts the dynamic from you being this chaser, which again repels a man, because that's chasing his masculine trait. Remember that the feminine trait is to receive. Actually, one of the feminine traits that isn't on that list is rest. Rest, receiving. I'm the good thing. I'm the treasure. And guess what? When you know that, your husband will recognize him. Some of us are waiting for our husbands to tell us. That's not how you create the atmosphere that you want in your relationship. All right? Addressing your fears so that you can operate with love. I'm not going to say too much about that because there's a bit that I teach on mindset coming up in a little bit, and I'll go into that a little bit more. But that operating from fears in your relationship is causing the atmosphere around you to not be a nice place to be in. Right? And here's the 4th thing, setting yourself alight. So what does that mean? How do I become playful again, Adaeze? How does my atmosphere become light and warm and welcoming again? The reason why it's not anymore is because you've lost yourself, right? You started to look at your husband and your marriage to set you alight, to bring you alive, to give you life, which put pressure on the relationship. But actually, when you learn what sets you alive, listen, I'm in charge of how I feel about me. I'm in charge about how I feel about me. And within me, I create that sense of joy because I do things that set me alight. So then by the time my husband steps into my atmosphere, it feels amazing for him. He wants to be there. During COVID, everybody was like, oh my God, we're going to be locked in our houses with our husbands. We're going to be locked in our houses with our wives. Mr. Steve and I were so excited because if we could literally be locked in the house together, we'd be quite happy. Not because of him and me or what I'm doing for him, but because of my own sense of I know how to set myself alight and feel good. That shifts my energy, right? And means that then my atmosphere, when my energy is shifted, my atmosphere feels great, feels nice being around me, right? And you know what I always say, and I say in this house, I bring the sunshine. I am the sunshine of my home, right? Of my marriage. I'm the sunshine. You have to do that for yourself. You're waiting for him to set you alight. He doesn't have that power. Or maybe I should say you shouldn't be giving him that power. But we'll get on to that. So that's femininity. If you have any questions, let me know. Like I said, we do go into this in great depth on the course. But just to give you an indication, and maybe it's time to sort of sit and look at yourself and say, hey, am I operating more with masculine? Do I have any of those traits? The answer to that is yes. Do I operate in them? That's where it might be, maybe not so much. And then how can I begin to start just being aware of that now? And I'll tell you something, when you do start to say it's okay for me to feel and be and operate from my feminine energy, you will feel the absolute power of it. And that's why I'm not afraid to use the word authority, right? When I'm talking about this thing, because it's powerful. But let's talk about being empowered, right? When a woman knows the spiritual authority she carries, she's powerful beyond measure, right? Ever heard the term, what did they say? A woman scorned something, that she's terrible. But guess what? It's only because when she's scorned, she taps into her power. But imagine if she doesn't have to be scorned to tap into that power. She just knows that she is powerful on a spiritual level. To decree a thing, to declare a thing, to bring things into existence, to shift their atmospheres, to create new realities. Right? And some of you know this. Some of you know that actually you control the atmosphere in your marriage. If I'm right, put a 1 in the comments. You know that you control the atmosphere. It just takes for you to decide you're going to be moody. The whole house feels cold. Right? The whole house, icicles are forming. Right. You know that. Okay, when shifting from masculine to feminine energy, how do we let them know that it's our real? Because sometimes they doubt the shift. Well, first of all, you have to be committed to it, right? So you have to not doubt it. You have to be like, right, this is me. I'm making this shift. Yeah. And at first, like I said, that transition period, that transition moves from, yeah, right, this isn't who she is, to, oh, maybe it is who she is, but I'm not comfortable with this change. Why is she changing? To, oh my God, I love this. She's back to, and here's the thing, most of the times you're going back to the woman who you was before you got married. How many of you know that you were more feminine, more empowered, more confident before you got married? When you guys were dating, the woman who we met initially, right? And then wrong teaching, thinking that you have to lose yourself. I did it. Thought you're supposed to lose yourself, sacrifice who you are, become a doormat, put your queen crown down and put on, the house girl dress. apron, right? Allow fear to take over so we become nagging and horrible and, pressures and try to do so much that we're overwhelmed. And it shifted who we were or who we are. When really the person who he was attracted to was that other woman. So why did we even change? That's why it's so important to be authentic. So go through the transition, but you have to stay committed to it. When you stay committed to it, he'll go there with you. And he will love it. That's the thing. He will love it. Let's deal with this, right? Again, a lot of people, on the wives coaching will come on and really want me to give them a list of do A, B, C, D, E, and this is what's going to change your marriage. And it's all pointing at the husband. But we start with us, start with our mindsets. We start with getting ourselves right, feeling great about ourselves. Right. So great, good response. I do not believe we need to let someone know that we are shifting the energy. Energy is vibration. That happens when we decide to make the commitment to ourselves. Exactly that. So it's not about going home and saying, hey, hubby, so I'm just letting you know, I'm about to shift the energy right now. Right? I'm going to be using my feminine, so just be warned. Might take you a little bit of time to get used to it, but I'm sure you'll get there. No, it's not going to be that. It's just exactly that. You saying to yourself, and you want to know when it's more powerful? When you say, regardless of him. Doing this for me, because this is great for me. And, even before when I said, in business, I use more of my masculine, I'm learning slowly that actually using a lot of my feminine in business is far more powerful, comes more natural, feels better, opens more doors, right? And makes me a better businesswoman, right? So even in that sphere, let's talk about these mindset shifts, because these are powerful. And I promise you, when you do this work on you, remember what we said before, when you shift, everything else around you has to, by very law of physics. So many of you are operating from a fear perspective in your relationship. What am I afraid of, Adaeze? Well, you're afraid of divorce. You're afraid of losing him. You're afraid of being alone. You're afraid of the children not having their dad living in the same house. You're afraid of judgment. You're afraid of what everybody's going to say. You're afraid of failure. Right? Guess what is happening with all that fear that you are operating with? It shows up in your relationship as panic. What are you doing? When you said hello, this is how you said it. And that made me feel like this. And look, showing up like that. It's desperation. You have a small argument and you feel like the whole world is ending. Or you think that he's coming against you. It's controlling. Many women say, oh, Daisy, no, I'm not controlling. I put it to you that every time you use emotional blackmail, how do you use emotional blackmail? When you go moody. When you go moody because you're not happy with something and you stay moody until you get that sorry, right? That's a bit of control, right? It's a bit of emotion. It's emotional control, right? You're miserable a lot of times because you're afraid of losing him, afraid of divorce, afraid it's going to fail, afraid it's not going to work. Every argument goes from 0 to 100, right? You're on him all the time, right? And you didn't do this and you didn't say hello and you didn't touch my back and you didn't hold my hand and you didn't. It's like, because we're afraid. What does that mean, right? If he doesn't hold my hand, what does it mean? He said he's not hungry. What do you mean you're not hungry? You don't want my food. It's fear, it's panic, it's desperation. Now just consider, what is it like living with that every day? What is it like for you living like that? What is it like for him living with that? I need to put a disclaimer out at this point, as I remember. I am not the person, the coach, who is going to say, you know, a wise woman buildeth her house and put it all on the woman. Absolutely not. If this was doing a webinar for men, I would have a whole thing for men that they need to do, right? Absolutely. But this isn't a competition. This is about us taking ownership for us, right? This is about us taking ownership on our side. Let him do what he's doing. You take ownership for your side. So let's move away from fear. What would I rather you operate from? What's the most powerful place? Well, operating from love and desire. Well, wait a minute. I'm not afraid of losing him. I desire to be with him. Such a difference. People always get shocked when I say that. I'm not afraid of losing my husband. I'm not afraid of it. I'm not afraid of divorce. I'm not afraid of the marriage failing. I don't have fear of it. I faced that fear many years ago, right? But I have an absolute desire for him, to be with him for the rest of life, to create this beautiful marriage that we're enjoying together. Absolute love and desire for it. Well, what's the difference, Daisy? Well, the difference is when I operate from love and desire, first of all, it's so much more powerful. There's freedom in it. I don't have to be panicking, controlling, and desperate. Right? There's more harmony in it. It's authentic. Can you guys see the difference? Put a 1 in the comments if you can see the difference between the two. Great. Only one person. Am I explaining it well? Here's the other mindset I see a lot with many women, the victim mindset. Here's the dangerous thing about this victim mindset. It's a habit. It can be addictive, and we like to stay there. It's happening to me. Oh, he's doing it to me. Oh, look, I have to live with it as well. There's nothing I can do. I'm the victim. If it wasn't for him, I would have a better life. I am the victim in all of this. Nobody is caging you. You're not in a cage. Yes. You're not in a cage, right? There's no gun to your head. All these excuses and blocks that you put in for yourself. Oh, because of this, oh, that's why I'm a victim. That's all within your own mind, right? All this sort of, oh, it's happening to me. Making yourself a victim. And let me tell you the truth, and you know that it's true. Sometimes we like to be that because we're hoping that it brings some sympathy. And with that sympathy, hopefully he'll feel sorry for us. And if he feels sorry for us, hopefully he'll be more loving towards us. Am I right? I am. But it's a weakened position. It's a weakened position. I remember, I've told this story a few times. I remember years back when we were going through hell and I didn't know who I was back then. If we were having a bad day or bad morning, should I say, or Mr. Chiwoko said something I didn't like, whatever, I would say to him, that's it, you see, you've ruined my day. I used to say that to him all the time. You have ruined my day. Wow. And literally, because I was the victim, that would be it. My whole day would just be, I'd be exhausted, I'd be stressed, I'd have a headache. My day would literally be ruined. One morning, we were in bed, can't remember what we were talking about, but we got to that point and I was like, that's it, you've ruined my day. He got up, went to work, and I continued, and I got up. I was standing by the wardrobe and I was talking to myself. I was just, that's it, my day is ruined, and I've got to look after these kids. And I really remember just hearing within me, did he own the day to ruin it? Did he give you the day to ruin? As in, why give him that power? It's not, he didn't wake you up to see the day, right? He's not your destiny keeper. He's just a mere human being. And yet you take your own power to decide the type of day you want to have and you give it to him and you allow him to determine whether you're going to feel good during the day or not. Wow, what power you've given someone, husband or no husband. But it meant that I can still be a victim in it all. I could be like the good person and he's the baddie. And we like to play those roles. No more. Absolutely no more. From that point forward, I decided, oh, heck no. I decide whether my day is going to be good, and I like to have good days, so I choose that, right? So I operate from a place of authority, which is what I want you ladies to do. This is happening for me, and I have the authority to create my reality. Let me give you another example. This was only maybe 3 months back, maybe 4 months back, called Mr. C, and he does a lot of physical work, fits kitchens and bathrooms. I don't know if he'd hammered his thumb or something, but he was in the worst mood. You know, we were on the phone, and you know, like in the cartoons, he was like, it's like his tongue was coming out of the phone. I was like, what is going on? What's going, you know? I put the phone down. I was like, do you know what? Forget it. Put the phone down. And that was it. All these feelings of, how dare he talk to me? He doesn't even care about me. He doesn't even love me. So I love him, what even tell her? Oh. And I could feel myself going down into that spiral of, he's ruined my day. Right? But because I know I'm the authority, I caught that real quick. I give myself a couple of minutes of feeling it, and then I say, enough. What day do you want to have? Well, I want to go back to feeling great. That's what I like. I like to feel joy. I like to feel energized and full of fun. So then I take myself, I physically deal with the mind first, cast down anything that I don't want, put in what I do, gratitude, love. If I need a bit of music, I'll do that just to shift my own energy. This is you taking responsibility. This isn't just laying back in life and letting things happen. You do it, right? So I did that to the point that I even forgot. Now, back in the day, what would have happened is I would have gotten home from work before him and maintained almost purposely, I am going to stay in this bad mood so that he knows, right? I would have maintained, forgetting that that is actually doing worse for me. I would have maintained that negative energy. And as he opened the door, he would have felt the icicles forming from the ceiling. It would have been so cold in this house, right? But because I'd shifted the atmosphere already, by the time he'd come home, I'd already forgotten, back to being the sunshine. And he walked into that. So guess what he did naturally? Came to me, gave me a kiss. Babe, I'm so sorry about today. This is what happened. I shouldn't have done. Oh, babe, it's fine. Thank you for apologizing. And that is how we navigate through life as the authority. And that allowed me to operate in the feminine, and the feminine will always call out the masculine, always. It will always call it out. What does the masculine look like? The desire to protect, the desire to cover, the desire to treasure you. Right? But no masculine man is trying to do that to another masculine person. Why do I need to cover, protect, treasure another masculine person? It doesn't naturally happen. So know that you know the authority, shift that mindset. Here's another mindset shift from lack to abundance. Lack, focusing on all the things that are not right in your relationship. Andy doesn't do this, and we don't do that, and we don't go on a date, and you never did that, and yesterday you said this to my mum and I didn't like it, and this and this and this. So focused on everything you don't have. And then what that does is put you in this chasing position. Again, it's not the most attractive, it's not the most alluring or appealing. But what would happen if you put the same amount of energy into abundance? Allowing yourself to be faithful and grateful. Do you know what? I am grateful for A, B, C, D. I am grateful that this, that, and the other. And allowing that to be what you focus on, calling to mind that which you desire. Remember that we're focusing on our desire and being like, yes, this is absolutely available to me. Not praying, oh, give me this, give me this, give me this, give me this, prayer of lack, but saying, you know what, I am so grateful because yes, this is available. My desires are fully available to me. They're here. And I receive them. They're mine. Available to me, right? Every day I write 10 things that I'm grateful for, 5 of which is around my marriage and relationship. Every single day. Do you want to know why? Because whatever you focus on expands. If you've got a pen and paper, write that down. Whatever you focus on expands. What do I mean by that? Have you ever noticed that, you saw a car, a blue, whatever, and you thought that that's the first time you saw it, right? And it probably was the first time that you saw it or paid attention to it. And you said, oh my God, I want that car. And maybe you actually went out and bought it. Isn't it strange how all of a sudden everybody's got that car? Put one in the comments if that's happened. Right? All of a sudden now you see that car everywhere. Like, what the? Do you think it's because as you bought that car, more of those cars came into production and everybody bought it? Do you think that that's what happened? It's not. What happened is that because you focused on that car, what your mind does is show you more, because whatever you give attention to, whatever you focus on expands. I remember that, I've lived on my street for the main street for a number of years, but because I've always drove, whichever is the right one, I've never noted the bus stops. Then my eldest son obviously has to start getting a bus, right? And I'm driving down and, talking, I was like, okay, yeah, you could always get this bus. And then, oh, there's a bus stop. Oh, I didn't even notice there were so many bus stops on this road. Why didn't I notice it before? I wasn't paying attention to it. It wasn't in my eye line, right? But now, because I have to think about it, like, boom, 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 I can see it all. In your relationship, because you are so focused on the lack, that is all you are going to see. You're so focused on the negative, that is all you can see. Do you know the amount of couples that come to me and they're so, this is wrong, that is wrong, this is wrong, this doesn't happen, da, 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 da. When I get them, and believe me, it's a challenge because they've trained themselves so much to see the lack. When I push and push and push and push to say, give me something that's good, they'll say, I can't think of anything. That's what they'll say. I can't think of anything. And I'll push, tell me something. Give me another one and another one. And before we know it, we've got this whole list of good that far surpasses the negative. And I say, look at that. You've trained yourself to be so good, so competent at seeing the negative that you have completely missed all the abundance, all the things that you're grateful, that you can be grateful for. And here's the dangerous thing. The more that you get focused on the lack, on the things that you don't have, you get more of those things. You attract more of it. Think of it as like a snowball, right? You start off with focusing on one little part of negativity and it just rolls, it rolls, it rolls. And it keeps attracting more until it turns into this big, massive snowball. You could give us just as much energy to say, okay, let me look for the good. I start to draw on that and be grateful. I promise you, you will start to see that ball expand. Yeah, how do we operate in feminine energy after having kids, being tired, poor mental well-being? This is so good. Very, very great question. Now, there's a load of things that I could teach on with this. Again, on the course, we go into this in depth, but a few things that I started to practice. Number one, the children shouldn't be an excuse for you not being able to operate in your feminine energy, because you want to use your feminine energy even with the children. Like, it's a lifestyle. It's like how you start to operate. You just start to trust your intuition more. You start to allow your creativity to flow more. You start to soften. You start to look for space to rest. You start to ask for help because it's okay for you to receive. That's the prerogative of a woman, right? You recognize that just because I can doesn't mean that I have to. I love that. Of course I can put this table together. Of course I can. I don't have to. Let me give that space to my husband to give to me and let me receive, knowing that him giving is a blessing and me receiving is a blessing. Right? You learn how to say no to things that don't align with you, that exhaust you, that overwhelm you. Right? You actively create space for yourself to do things that soften you. Maybe that's a bubble bath. Maybe that's getting your hair done, whatever it is. Right? In the mornings, you take time to do things that make you feel more like a woman. You take time to meditate so that you can align your mind. You focus on desire and love and abundance, not lack. You practice not challenging, but using charm when you're speaking, right? And I'm going to use that word practice. This isn't something that you say, okay, right, we've learned about that today now, and I'm going to get off and do it. It's practicing. Now that you've heard this, you'll become more aware, and awareness is king, right? You'll be aware, you'll be like, oh gosh, that was so masculine. Let me practice that, doing it feminine. When I'm coming to sit beside him, even that space of coming to sit, right? Even the knowing how to use the power of touch, that's that sensuality. Coming in for a heavy conversation, rather than just coming, blah, 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 I need to tell you, blah, blah. What about the approach, the speed of the approach, the tone of the voice, the softness of the touch as you touch his arm and speak to him, coming close, using your breast, connecting with him? What about the power of sex? Initiating it more, allowing yourself to feel sexy so that it creates that energy in your relationship. Learning that your relationship actually comes before the kids. How could you say that, Adaeze? No way, the kids come first. Think about it. Think about it. If you had an amazing apple tree in your back garden, had all these great apples, you really wanted these apples to be the fruitiest, shiniest, most well-grown apples. Do you take your watering can and water the apples? No. What do? You water the tree from where the apples come from. Right? So much of us are watering everything. We're watering the kids. Even after the kids, then we're watering friends, we're watering church, we're watering all these things. And then at home, we're exhausted. I always say this, your husband probably gets, even I say it to husbands as well about the wives, your partner, your spouse probably gets the worst version of you at least 5 days a week, and everybody else gets the best version. How can you say that, Adaeze? Well, think about it. You wake up in the morning in an absolute rush, no physical connection, no emotional connection, barely any communication. You jump out of bed, you get to work or wherever you're going, and everybody gets that energetic, just woke up, had some breakfast, had my coffee, right? I know I've got to be nice to these people because I want to keep my job, so I give them my best. Right? I've got my lipstick on, my hair is done, right? I feel good, right? And then, you get a call after work, come here, go and do this, go and lead that, go and exhaust yourself, do everything for everybody, and then, end of the day, exhausted, worn out, frustrated, tired, fed up, that's the one that the husband gets. Right? So in the mornings, even when my children, they're quite close in age. So when they were younger, they were 4, 2, and 1. That's how it sort of works, right? And I would wake up at 5, not because I'm crazy, but because I loved that hour or 2 of just peace for me, to feel me, to tap into me, my spirit, pray, read, soften, dress, smell good, feel good, right? Even now I practice wake up in the morning, hugs, kisses, connect. Not everything has to be, it's about your planning, your time, doing it for you first, right? Oof, time. Oh, listen to this one, guys. Because if you can screenshot this, screenshot it. Your emotions are your power tool. This is a key lesson I'm giving you here. A woman's intuitive nature, heightened discernment, and quiet wisdom come from her ability to feel into the grey. But her emotions can also cause confusion, chaos, and damage if not handled with care. I'm going to explain to you what I mean by that. And it's explained in this concept, what I call passenger seat emotions. So here's the problem that us as women have. Our emotions are our power. Absolutely amazing. God gifted. Right? God gifted. Of course, men have emotions, but there's a part of the brain, which I always forget the name of, does it begin with an M or an L? It's the station where our emotions are driven from, where we connect, where we recognize happiness, we recognize fear, that part of the brain, right? It is significantly bigger in a woman than it is a man. So when men say, oh my God, women are so emotional. Yeah, because we've even got a bigger part of the brain dedicated to emotion, significantly bigger than in a man. Why? Is that coincidental? No. It's part of that feminine trait. We were given more emotions because, and as it says here, to be able to have intuition, a heightened level of discernment, which is what that women's intuition is. It's a heightened level of discernment. That comes from our ability to feel. And where I put here, feel into the grey, I mean that a man will see 2 + 2 and be like, yeah, that equals 4. A woman will be like, yeah, but there's the 2.2 and I feel the 2.3 and there's possibly a 2.4 that I can just sense, but I don't know where from, right? I also always give this analogy, you go and buy a house with a man or go and look for a house with a man and just observe what the man does. He walks into the house and he's like, right, yeah, got the walls there, starts banging things, knocking on things. Yeah, great. Opens cupboard, close, right? Yeah, that works. Stand on the floor, yeah, study that. Shut the electrics, like switch works. Great, right? It's a good house, right? We've got walls, we've got windows, great. What does a woman do? She does a bit of that for sure. But she makes her decision based on how it feels. So she'll either walk in, and even if it has everything that it needs, she may say, just doesn't feel right. Or, oh my God, it feels like a home. Right? Husband's like, yeah, don't care how it feels. It's a house. You're like, but it feels like a home. How many times have you turned to your husband, you've met somebody new, or your husband's met somebody new, and you've said, there's something about him, babe. I don't like. And he's like, what do you mean? You've just met him. You feel. How many times have you been like, I'm not sure that you should go there. Why? I don't know, I just feel. And you know that more times out of 10, you've been right. That's because that's your emotions. That's what it's there for. But most of us have our emotions not in the passenger seat, in the driver's seat. That's where the problem is. So you allow your emotions to drive you. I feel angry, so I act angry. I feel insecure, so I act insecure. I feel afraid, so I act afraid. I feel frustrated, so I act frustrated. No questions asked, right? When I saw you do this, I felt like, so I just. And we know that that is an incorrect way to behave, because how many of you have gotten into an argument because of the way something he said or did made you feel, and then a few days later, when those feelings had subsided and reason was allowed to reign, you were like, maybe actually, yeah, I probably shouldn't have responded that way. If I didn't do it that way, then that would have happened. Actually, there was probably a more wise way to respond in that situation. Okay? What you're supposed to do, the more powerful way of using your emotion is putting your emotions in the passenger seat. What do you mean by that, Adaeze? Literally think of it as a car. Put your emotions in the passenger seat. Hey, passenger seat driver. Hey, driver. You feel angry? I do. Yeah, okay, great. Thanks for telling me. Thanks for informing me. That's what your emotions are there for. They're informants. I feel angry. Pause. Stop. What is it I feel angry about? What has happened here? Why has this triggered me? What is going to be the reasonable response? Right? Putting your emotions firmly in the passenger seats gives you the ability, the chance to operate from wisdom, to even think whether there's even anything that needs to be said. Sometimes those emotions are highlighting things in you. This is triggering a deep down fear that you have. This is triggering stuff from the past. This is triggering things from your childhood. This is triggering things you haven't forgiven yet. This is triggering a fear that you have, not because of what's happened, but you're fearful of the future. That's why you're feeling this way. It's not even about what he did or said. Passenger seat emotions allows you to rationalize it with emotion. What is this? It allows you to see the situation for what it truly is. Oh, okay, that's what's really going on here. Right? It allows you to stop and actually hear your partner. How many of you know that your husbands have been trying to express their feelings to you, but because they don't express their feelings in the same way that women do, we don't hear it. We don't hear it because we just let the emotions, they're very 2 + 2 = 4, right? Just straight to the logic. But when we actually sit back and allow intuition, empathy, those feminine traits, you might actually hear behind all of that, I'm afraid of losing you, actually. I've had a really hard day at work. I'm worried about money. I feel like I'm failing the family. I'm hungry. Sometimes that's what I hear from Mr. C. He'll come in and be like a bear. And if I didn't use passenger seat emotion, I might start to, why would you come in and slam the door that way? Well, I heard it and I'm like, it's got nothing to do with me. He's hungry. Here, have something to eat. It's fine. It allows you the opportunity to respond with wisdom, not react with chaos. Again, you know this, you've been in so many arguments where even just the next day, you're like, that was such a wasted energy. I was just reacting. And now in hindsight, I actually know the wise way to respond to this, but I didn't put my passenger seat and my emotions in the passenger seat. My emotions were firmly in the driver's seat. And I am talking from a woman who absolutely did not even know that there was a passenger seat for emotions, right? I am a very emotional person. So it's very easy for me to be driven by my emotions. And that's how it used to be. Everything was World War III. I'd be pretty much climbing up the walls till I started practicing this. And now I get to see and hear things that help me to respond with wisdom, that help me to deeply hear my partner and know exactly what he needs at that time. Sometimes it is just sit and listen. Sometimes it might even be sex. Sometimes it might just be like, you know what, babe, you're right. I hear you. I hear you. You can do it. Sometimes it's just a bit of praise, appreciation. How many husbands have said to you, and I know that they're here, that wives are here that have had their husbands say this, I don't feel appreciated. So you have to be very, very careful particularly with that deeply hearing your partner, because the male emotion will not be expressed in the same way as the female emotion. You know what female emotions look like. That's why sometimes you feel like you can get on better with your friend, but that's because like for like, you understand that one. You know when she's upset, because we make it very, very obvious, right? And his might look like anger, but a lot of the times it's just the same things that we feel. Woo! I hope I haven't lost you guys. I want to make sure that I leave some time for questions, so I'm gonna rush through this bit a little bit. Okay. Confident. The confident woman, she knows her worth, she believes in her abilities, owns her flaws, relishes opportunities to grow, and creates her own inner sense of peace. Her own inner sense of peace, not waiting for somebody to give it to her, not waiting for the relationship to give it to her, not waiting for her husband to give her peace. She creates her own sense of peace, and that is what oozes from her and creates peace in her atmosphere and her world, because she is that powerful. Right. So the confident wife, how do you create it? Right. Through your self-concept. That means what, you know, the concept that you have of yourself, your self-image, your core beliefs, and your sense of worthiness. They're all dictating how you show up in a relationship. You will be amazed at the number of women who, working with me, we've been able to address their self-concept, their self-image, their worthiness. Because a lot of the way that they're showing up in their relationship is because they don't actually feel or know that they're worthy of better. Right? They don't know that they're worthy of having a husband that will dote on them, that will treasure them, that you will be their passion. That's a core belief. It's a core belief. Yeah, this is about as good as it can get. And so then you limit what's available to you. Within your marriage, you can have those things that you desire. But it has, again, it starts with you. You've got to believe it, your self-image. I'm a woman whose husband is passionate. I mean, why wouldn't he be passionate about me? I'm the good thing. There you go. There it is again. I remember when I started to believe within myself, I started to brainwash myself that my husband is a doting husband. I am a spoiled wife. And I begin to build that self-image, that self-concept. I'm a spoiled wife. I am worthy to be a spoiled wife. I had to build that within me. And believe me, guys, I am now a very, very spoiled wife and proud of it. Extremely spoiled. And other people see it, but I don't mind. You have to, as a woman thinks, as she thinks, so she is, so she attracts, so she manifests. Right? What you think. So if you don't think you're worthy of any better, if you don't think that you're a trophy, if you don't know that you're the prize, if you don't believe that it's possible for you to have a passion-filled, healthy, beautiful marriage, then guess what? You don't get it. You don't get it. Your husband is not your God. Here's the next part of that. This is another one that people struggle with. Adaeze, how could you say that? Well, it's the truth. He isn't your God. Your husband is not your God. You are great with him and great without him. You are whole with him and whole without him. You're valuable regardless of him. Again, this isn't a male bashing thing. This isn't a don't care about your husband. It is far from that. It is a dynamic shift. It is becoming that confident woman. It is moving to that place where I'm not afraid of losing him, so I'm not going to strangle it to death. I know that I'm great with him and great without him. Can you imagine how you would be in your marriage with that sense of confidence? Babe, with you, I'm amazing, but without you, I'm amazing because you're not my God. Again, going back to, I choose every day to love you. I choose every day to be with you. I choose to lean into my desire to grow with you. Right? but I'm not afraid. And so I don't have to strangle my marriage to death. I don't have to strangle my husband. I don't have to lock him. I don't have to be on him. I don't have to be observing every single last thing and correcting him on everything and challenging everything and reading into everything. I can allow an atmosphere of freedom, liberty, no judgment, judgment-free zones. You know, a lot of the men that I talk to, many of them feel this, hear me women, that, okay, when they get out of the house, you know, many of us have to somehow wear some form of different masks, you know, where you can't fully be yourself. And to be able to come home and even in your own house, you're still judged. You still can't be yourself. Where do they go to? You know, where's that one place where they're accepted? Strengths, weaknesses, fears, good, bad, ugly, because we have them as well. Right? And what you want to be is that place where you can take comfort, right? But if you're not even confident with yourself, you're strangling him to death as well and struggling the relationship. You're not his safe space. The house isn't his safe space. So all around him, he has nowhere where he can be himself. It's a lot of tension to carry. So if you want to be a confident wife, first of all, you have to address, you've got to go away after this, really think about, what do I believe is possible for marriage? What do I believe I'm worthy of? This is tricky because it's not what you should believe. I want you to discover what you truly believe. Because then you can address it, right? Okay. Really quickly, power of influence. Many women come to me and say, Daisy, but how do I change my husband? I need him to change, Daisy. Can you just make him change? The truth is you can't. Sorry. You do not have the power, nor should you desire to have the power to change him. But I'll tell you what power you do have, and you have it in abundance. The power of influence. What is the power of influence? Power of influence allows you to create a will to improve for you, right? You influence him to the point that he naturally desires, how can I just be better for this woman? Or how can I be more like her? Gosh, it's always sunny in her world. I want to be where she is all the time. She knows how to handle situations. That's challenging me. Maybe I need to improve in that area. I want to for me. Power of influence, right? Where you are so firm in being feminine, empowered, and confident, you have shifted the atmosphere, shifted dynamics in your relationship, and you're creating your own sense of peace, joy, and happiness. You're operating from love and abundance, faith, gratitude, right? You know the authority that you have. You're influential in this relationship. That is only going to do one thing, is going to create a desire in him, a will within him to be more for you. Right? Create a will to improve for you through the power of your influence and the understanding of the male ego. The understanding of the male ego is so critical. It's so important, right? And again, in the wives coaching program starting in January, there's a full teaching on the male ego. But if you understand this, the male ego is directly linked to his self-identity, as in how he feels about himself. So every time you use your words or your behavior or your attitude to actively pull down his ego, you're pulling down who he is. It's the equivalent of him actively pulling down your self-esteem. Again, women, we can sit on the victim side of things very easily. He's always putting down my self-esteem. He's always knocking my confidence. Guess what? As big and broad as he is, that is exactly the same thing you're doing when his ego is being knocked, because it's directly linked to who he believes of it, his self-identity. Right? So when you use a combination of the power of your influence and understanding his ego, you can create a will, a desire for change within him, where he himself is like, I just want to be a better man. Does that make sense? Awesome. Right, so you would have heard me talking about this wives coaching program. I'm going to briefly give you the information about it. And while I'm doing that, please go ahead and pop in any questions that we have. You've got about 8 minutes for me to address these questions. So go ahead and pop them in if you do have any. But yeah, the 8-week program is starting in January, middle week, second week of January. Whoever joins, I'll send them the info. So we have a weekly coaching session. We have 12 training videos, right, that you have access to, and you also get a personal one-to-one coaching session with me. I'm only taking 20 ladies on because we do work very, very closely together. I can't do that with too many people. And you can get 20% off as well if you use the code down there below. So I'll just pop that code in for you in case you want to go ahead and join that. $2,002. All right. Already a lot of women signed up to that, so you want to make sure that you're within the 20. Boom. All right. Any questions? And let me leave you with this, this final word. Do not, I am pleading with you, do not settle for a mediocre marriage when the marriage you truly desire is available to you. It is. All right, I'm going to stop sharing screen. Thanks, ladies. All right. Nobody's popped any questions in, so does that mean that we're all good? Yes. We're good. Yeah. All right, great. Did you guys find value in that? Thank you, Tia. Thanks, Charity. Thanks, Dorcas. Great. Good. Loads of value. Awesome. Amazing. All right. Well, you'll probably get an email after this if you do want to have a chat, or there's something in that you really struggled with. You wish you could have more webinars. I am trying. There's a few different options for you. I'm going to pop the link in the chat so you have it there. There's also a payment plan. So oh, I can't find it. I'll send it. It'll come out to you in an email. Yeah, if you're interested in that, join in that. But it'll come out to you in an email. No problem. All right, ladies. Yes, I will be doing more webinars. 2023. Let's go. Let's do it. Let's improve our lives. And let me tell you this. If you practice some of the things that I taught you in there in life, just in your everyday life, not only will your marriage improve, but everything around you will improve. All right, everything around you will improve. And that's what these ladies are getting on the coaching program. The last webinar that I did last week, I actually had one of the ladies who was on the coaching program come on and give a testimony of her marriage. She came in, they were on the verge, like this was her last hope. Okay. And she registered onto the coaching program. We spent 8 weeks together, and she is now going around just talking to people about how things, and it's been, she was on the early this year, way early. The transformation in her marriage, the way her husband is with her now is just like, she just never thought it would ever be possible, right? And she even said last week that when she joined the 8-week program, she was a bit like, yeah, why is Adaeze just keep telling me to do stuff and why do I have to do things? And she was a bit like, yeah, I'm not getting this. And then she decided that she was going to trust my words. She's going to trust the process, and she's going to do everything that I told her to do. And she did, right? And it all started with her. And before you knew it, this guy was taking time off work just to be with her, right? Making sure the house was clean and cooking for her so she could rest, right? Booking dates and tables for her, things that he's never done before. Like, completely changed, completely. She, no kicking, no screaming, no begging him, no crying, just becoming a feminine, empowered, confident wife, right? Thank you, S. All right, guys. Thank you for coming. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. Look out for me in your emails, and hopefully I'll be seeing some of you on the training program. Bye.